Blah, blah, blah. Bingo, bango. Live without any need of a special type of introduction because it's just like the rest that you've heard. If you somehow stumbled across this podcast, for which I apologize, however, we're here and we're here and we're queer. Even though the second part was a lie, it is the Bottom Line Podcast, and I am your host, Davidson Baker. How are we doing tonight to everybody listening? Even though I can't hear a word you say back, we have a special guest, man. So I got to say, was a little bit weary going into the thought of having someone from the proverbial MMA space talk to me about NBA free agency, but let alone the man is here, my colleague from Cage Side Press, as well as and better known throughout the MMA community for his work on the Loudmouth MMA Network as the Sunday Morning Cornerman, which I believe begins its part of the network on this upcoming Sunday. If I'm right, correct me if I'm wrong, and you have the floor, John Franklin, everybody.
You're absolutely correct, Davidson. We are moving to Loudmouth MMA Network coming this Sunday at the conclusion of International Fight Week. So let me just say about my history with NBA is that I love playing basketball. When I was a kid, I followed Jordan's Bulls and the Charlotte Hornets. When I was a kid, I'm from the same area as Allen Iverson and Alonzo Mourning. So that's kind of I played basketball when I was younger. So I've always had a fascination with it. And the one thing that I can promise you, Davidson, that you can never worry about, whatever the topic of the podcast is, I will never get on a podcast to make a fool of myself. So I came prepared. Of course, I did some research. I have my shit together, so I'm ready to roll. What do you want to talk about? Let's get into it.
I think the big thing to talk about is obviously the elephant in the proverbial room, and so I'll kind of walk through how I came about asking myself this question. So, as you are very well aware, Between the Links is something I do every couple of weeks or every week. So I'm doing my thing with Between the Links, a podcast I do as a part of the Loudmouth Network that we have that is aforementioned. And I get off it and I open Twitter and I'd see all this stuff. Kawhi is a Laker. Kawhi is a Laker. Kawhi is a Laker. Did Woj say it? No? Okay. So I'm going to wait and assume. However, it's looking like the wheels are turning to get to ultimately arrive at that destination. The Clippers are the last team to meet with him. That's what I read a second ago. The Clippers have the last meeting, but from everybody's understanding, the Lakers are the front runner.
Okay, let's break this down because I've been thinking about this a lot. And Kawhi's a weird guy, and he does things his own way, and I get it. And I'm wondering to myself, of the teams that he has in his his final three, right? So he's got the Lakers, he's got the Clippers, and he's got the Raptors. Which team does it benefit the least for him to wait the longest to make his decision?
Okay. Which team? There's lots of parts to that question. Which team does it benefit the least for him to take his time to make that decision?
Yes. Who does it benefit the least?
I think Toronto.
I disagree only because I would say the Lakers. Here's why. Because they have the thinnest roster. So, once you have LeBron, AD, and Kawhi, what else do you need? But those other teams are more complete teams. So he's already been in Toronto. I just wonder, knowing the kind of guy that Kawhi is, and I understand the reports they're out, if I was Kawhi and I was going to wait, I would wait to ensure that all the free agency moves happened. The Lakers waited on me and I would sign with the Clippers, because then the Lakers would be compromised based on the inability to sign any other quality free agents. That's what would make sense to me. But I get that. I don't know. I just can't see waiting and then going to a three-headed monster.
No,
how are they going to fill out the roster?
I definitely understand that sentiment. And when you think about filling out the roster, I read that this was an opinion from someone in the NBA, like Globosphere, Mark Stein, someone whose opinion I obviously really respect. Say what you want about the three-pronged monster that Kawhi and LeBron and Anthony Davis make. Obviously, that's one that would scare a lot of people. Here's the thing, though. They're going to have the worst bench in the NBA. They already do. There's not a whole lot you can add on top of that. I'm obviously not saying that this team is incapable of winning a title if Kawhi gets there. I think, I would have to be reminiscent of a type of Ray Charles type of situation if I were to actually believe that and consider it myself any type of an informed opinion. However, we've seen it time and time again. When teams don't have go-tos off the bench, when teams don't have that next guy up, when teams can't call out, when Steve Kerr in particular can't call up somebody to trust whenever his team is a mini infirmary, that's exactly what doomed the Lakers this year. But what are you going to do? I mean, it's a possibility. It's something that exists within the realm of the sport.
Yeah, so the team that the Golden State Warriors were fielding in the finals, right? Would that team, if one of those guys happens to get hurt because of the load management they're trying to do, but they can't because they have no depth. If LeBron got hurt or AD got hurt or Kawhi got hurt, then now you're running two guys out there, right? And you really have to have faith. Now, listen, if they get them, it's 3 of the top 5 players in the league. And that's unheard of. That's never been done. So I get it. And for the next thing I want to address, because listen, he's either going to go there, he's not, and their roster is their problem. But let's talk about the waiting. Do you think they should have waited, the Lakers?
Well,
because there's a couple schools of thought, right?
Right. Yeah, there really is. But just so I know exactly how to accurately answer exactly what you're asking, it waited in what context? In
this free agency period, meaning people are saying that, oh man, all these guys are signing and the Lakers aren't getting anybody because they're waiting for Kawhi. And then other people are saying, well, Kawhi's worth the wait. Do you think he's worth the wait?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. He's absolutely worth the wait. And I'm not sure if it's so much the Lakers waiting, even though obviously that has something to do with it. I think Kawhi is just taking his time and seeing where the dominoes fall. We have to remember too, just 2 days ago, Wojnarowski, who, I mean, like I've told you, man, I mean, that guy's in his own galaxy. If whatever he says, he's not lying. And he came out and, he's talking about Kevin and Kawhi talking the day before Stephen A, who think what you want about Stephen A, say what you want about Stephen A. A lot of his sources most of the time are correct. Whenever he does feel the need to bring up that a source told him something. And, it's been all over the place. We've been all over the place. I mean, 2 months ago, Kevin Durant to the New York Knicks was a sure thing. And then all of a sudden we're talking about and the bridge with Kawhi has kind of wobbled a little bit too. So I think it's more so of Kawhi taking his time. And he even bought property in Toronto. The last big domino to fall for sure, but it seems like all of the arrows are pointing in the purple and gold direction, which brings me to this question I would like to ask you. I read an article earlier today, which I really, really enjoyed by Brian Windhorst about how this power shift has created some sort of dynamic in the NBA that is escaping the reality we've had the past few years with the Warriors. Everybody knows going in, I got burned on a bet in January because I took the Warriors and my buddy took the field in terms of betting who's going to win the title. I got burned, I'll admit it.
Right.
But we all, I mean, put yourself in my shoes. A lot of people aren't going to bet the adverse way. And now going into next season, we have that, competitive nature in which you go into a season. You don't know what's going to happen. However, though, if Kawhi does join the Lakers, that effectively goes away. Your take on that, what do you make of that? What do you think of that?
Meaning, would I take the Lakers against the field if Kawhi signed with them?
Not even, but
the power shift, like how things are different now that the Warriors have been dismantled in a sense.
Does it excite you less, maybe per se, that you now see that there's a clear prohibitive favorite that should not allow a team to beat them 4 times in 2 weeks?
Yeah, well, no, I don't think so. I mean, I think I think other teams have made some good moves that make them maybe not to the extent that the Lakers are who they are. I mean, there's some other good squads out there as well. I think that the reason why you would make the Lakers the favorite, I agree with what Brian Windhorst is saying. I think the bigger power shift and the bigger paradigm change in the NBA is just that players now are so talented and GMs have been burned so badly in the past that, except for the Knicks, which I'm sure we'll get to later, guys are blowing out their Achilles and they're still getting max deals. That's the crazy thing to me, is that now it's just like Kevin Durant's amazing. He blew his Achilles. I don't care. I'm still signing him. That's the part to me that I think is the craziest change in the league that I've seen. But no, I don't think that Kawhi going to the Lakers makes it uninteresting to me, because I think there's a lot of question marks with Kawhi, LeBron. I think it's funny. We talk about the lack of depth. I think the lack of depth makes it interesting.
That's a great point. It's a great point because it's true. They're going to be severely, severely depleted. I mean, all they needed to do in terms of the deal that they sent to the Pelicans, I mean, the only thing they left out was the Staples Center. Am I wrong?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, say what you want about about what Anthony Davis is worth, and I sit on the side of the fence that believes at the end of the day, both sides in that trade got what they wanted, so it's fine. But especially if Rob Pelinka did not acquire Anthony Davis by July 31st, he's out of a job, in my opinion. And it will be interesting in that effect. But to kind of segue into something else, but touch on something you said, the fact of the matter, and I'm trying to get into the Knicks, kind of now, and the max deal thing you said. You at least seem to me, from the demeanor in which you just said what you said, that Kevin Durant maybe should not have gotten a max deal. Do you operate under that assumption? If you're an owner or you're a GM, are you giving Kevin Durant a max deal knowing you'll at least have 2, if not 3 seasons with a healthy Kevin Durant?
No, I would give him a max deal. I think it was a mistake by the Knicks not to give him one. And I think that if you're the Knicks, if you're going to err on the side of someone, err on the side of someone who's a generational legendary player. Don't say, look at how many times they've been wrong as an organization. And this is the hill you decide you choose to die on, Kevin Durant. Like, you gave money to Amari Stoudemire and all these guys that didn't pan out, ridiculous amounts of money to, Joakim Noah and all these guys, and Derrick Rose and all these different players. And then you decide to take a stand on Kevin Durant, of all people to be the guy. And my understanding was one of two things, or my belief is one of two things. Either, because I was under the impression that they thought, and everybody was saying, that all three wanted to go to the New York Knicks. Yep. Okay, that
was the dream scenario.
Yeah, that they wanted the Knicks. Durant, Kyrie, and DeAndre Jordan all wanted to go to the Knicks, and then when the Knicks fell through and they didn't offer KD the max, then they went to Brooklyn. But I just can't believe that they would come off it that quickly, and I just can't believe that the Knicks, who historically have made, they're consistently, the only thing they're consistent with is making horrible decisions. So this is in line with them more so than anything. Had they offered KD the money, and somebody made a great point. I've been watching The Jump like you can't imagine lately. That's all I've been watching. Yeah. And somebody made the point that, when they signed Amari Stoudemire, the Phoenix Suns had not signed off on Amari Stoudemire. They didn't want Amari Stoudemire. They didn't trust his medicals. The Golden State Warriors were fully prepared to offer Kevin Durant a max deal. And
max deal.
Right. That's the team that he had just been with. That's the team that knows the most about him. Right. And they were prepared to offer a max deal, and yet the Knicks weren't. So I think that this is, it's who the Knicks are. And it's who James Dolan is, and it's going to continue to be who the Knicks are until they get someone in there that's got a little bit of who's going to give them a little bit of pushback. They need someone that is like, listen, we're either going to run it my way or I'm not going to be here.
It's a situation that I don't pity people very often, sure, we have sympathy for those that we believe are getting or have been given a bad rap as humans. That's if you have any type of heart. However, I feel a lot of sympathy in that regard for Knicks fans because of the fact that this is not an easy fix. You can't fire the owner. You can't, especially not even the owner of the team. This guy owns the Garden. It goes way beyond his involvement with the team. The very DNA that makes up the arena has not only James Dolan's DNA in it, but how his father, his father, obviously, who passed the team down to him. I believe that I'm not crazy when I make this statement, even if it sounds insane. I think James Dolan just does not give two fucks. I don't. I just don't think James Dolan cares. And whether people, think that's crazy or not, what type of questions do you have to ask that side of the fence about not offering forget generational, arguably the most lucrative and effective offensive presence in the history of the NBA, arguably. And you're not going to give him every cent that you can. Also, I do want to point this out as well. I read today something I didn't know before. Apparently, because DeAndre Jordan and Kevin Durant, those guys are boys. Those guys are tight. I wasn't surprised at all when I read that Kevin took less money. Those guys are super, super tight. Here's my question. How much did DeAndre Jordan's proverbial stashing, if you want to call it that, affect this because they acquired DeAndre Jordan in that Kristaps trade and sat his ass. They sat him on the bench. How much of how badly did that rub DeAndre the wrong way? I would say quite a bit.
Well, I'm gonna transition to a Brooklyn Nets point, but I'm gonna finish the Knicks point because we brought up DeAndre Jordan. I think that Jim Dolan finds himself in a weird position, and this is the position I think he finds himself in. He wants to. A lot of people say he's not self-aware. I disagree. I think he's highly self-aware, and this is why I think he'll never sell the team, because he's so self-aware that he knows that the minute he sells that team and they win, everybody knows for sure it was his fault. He can point all the fingers in all the directions he wants until he sells the team, and it can sort of be in the wind. But once he's out of there, someone else is in, and it's successful, then there's no way that he can sort of like blindly. And I think that he's in a position now where he wants the credit for the resurrection of the Knicks, but he doesn't know what that means. So it's
he doesn't know what to do.
Well, yeah, like so if he brings in Kevin Durant, now Kevin Durant's the savior. And it's like, dude, you're not going to be the guy to go out there and start sinking jumpers. So somebody's got to be the hero. That's not you. And he doesn't know how to get the fans back. He's very thin-skinned. He's very petulant. He's like, he's exactly what you would think he is. He's a rich kid. And he's in a position where he doesn't want to be questioned. He wants to tour with his band and do all that kind of stuff. And I don't think that he wants to be I think he's in a position where he doesn't want to own the Knicks, but he doesn't want to get screwed in the process of losing the Knicks, right? So he sells them. Yeah. They end up being worth more. And then they go win championships, and it's like, this. Now not only is he someone who ran them poorly, but then he sold them, and whatever. Now let me transition to my Brooklyn Nets point.
Yep.
I'm just going to throw this question out there for you. Is this not the all-time head case team of all time? I mean, the fact that they're boys is like, you got Kevin Durant, rabbit ears, listens to everything.
Yep.
Right. Has his issues. You got DeAndre Jordan. Now, listen, I don't know if it was his fault, Chris Paul's fault, Blake Griffin's fault. I don't know what the hell happened with the Clippers, but it was dysfunctional, right? So now that Paul's gone on to the Rockets and there's some dysfunction there, then we can maybe blame him. Him and DeAndre have different personalities, so whatever. Kyrie is a space cadet. He has no idea, with the flat earth, he's destroying his team, the season. Like, he's a mess. So my questions for you about the Brooklyn Nets are, one, is with Kevin Durant being gone for a year and not playing, he'll definitely be, especially because he's boys with them, he'll be present. Is that enough time for Kyrie to destroy this team? I mean, if you give Kyrie a year where he's running the show, what the hell's Kevin Durant coming back to? A situation where all the teammates hate Kyrie. Like, is Kyrie going to be on his best behavior because Durant's his boy and he wants him to come back to a good situation? Or is he just going to be Kyrie and blow this whole thing up?
Naturally so. That is definitely a compelling question. I don't know for sure. And it would definitely make sense and is definitely understandable for someone to think or operate with that mindset in question. It's something that definitely has not shined very well on Kyrie this past season. A situation in which now Boston, who appeared to have, some sort of upper hand, maybe not in that trade particular, but in any trade they make, for the fact that they had so many assets from the team we are talking about in what was called by a good friend of mine yesterday, the worst trade in NBA history. However, I don't know if I agree with that, but it's up there. It's a good question. Kyrie, just how demonstrative is Kyrie? I don't think we know yet. I think either we will find out that it got as bad as it was in Boston, or like you said, 1 year, is that enough time? Or is Kevin, boys with him enough to hold it out? General knowledge and perspective of, at least from my side of the situation, tells me yes. I think Kyrie knew he wasn't going to win a championship in Boston. I think Kyrie did not want to be as active defensively on the floor as Brad Stevens would have begged and pleaded him to be. I think he kind of somewhat knew that Boston, while they did trade for him, would not mind putting the proverbial eggs in the basket of guys like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Kyrie's an interesting individual. Yeah, Kyrie is a little is a little, immature for his age. I mean, you just say it how it is. And the media thing definitely concerns me. The rabbit ears thing that you said with Kevin Durant, those guys listen to everything. And God forbid those guys don't win a title in year one. I don't care who's in LA. They're going to hear it.
Yeah,
Or in year two. I mean, year two.
The interesting thing for me about Kyrie, and I heard this a long time ago, and it fascinates me about him. His uncle or godfather is, I think it's his godfather, is Rod Strickland. And Rod Strickland, when I was a kid, was a guy who very much like Kyrie, everyone thought was the answer, right? He's this 20 and 10 kind of point guard. And it's like, well, if you get your point guard who scores 20 points and yet still can dish out 10 assists, well, then you're in business. Right. But it's fool's gold, right? You don't really want your point guard scoring 20 points. That's counterintuitive to what you want to do, unless you can figure out something like, how the Warriors do it. But I think that Kyrie comes with a lot of baggage. He's immensely talented. I think the reason why he won a title with LeBron is because he operates very well late in the shot clock, and LeBron needed that at that stage in his career. And I think that's what benefited them more than anything else, was that, they spaced the floor with Love and some of the other shooters. And then when LeBron couldn't make it happen in 18 seconds, he gave it to Kyrie with 7, and Kyrie broke someone down and they got a bucket. Kyrie loved hitting tough shots, and LeBron loved handing him tough shots to hit. So I'm fascinated with this team, man. I think that, they're genuinely friends. So I wish them the best. I like Kevin Durant a lot. I think he's a good dude. I think he's misunderstood. I think he does a lot less to cause his own problems than Kyrie does. So I give him a little bit more leeway there. But I'm interested.
The flat Earth thing is just blah.
It's too much. And he's one of these guys where you feel like on the one hand he's trolling you, and then he digs his heels in. You're like, listen, dude, if you're trolling me at some point, you gotta tell me the punchline. You gotta let me in on the joke. But if you're not, then you just can't keep writing it out and then just say I was misquoted, or he just gets caught up in his lies, and it just gets messy. I don't know that he's a great teammate, but I think he's trying to figure himself out. And I think he's one of these thought out guys that sometimes is an overthinker. We see that in MMA. He's kind of a little bit like Uriah Hall. He's immensely talented, but he just thinks too much. So so I don't know. But let's get on to the rest of this league. What else interests you?
Well, last thing I'll say about KD, and then I know exactly what I want to segue into. Of all people that you're gonna, well, maybe not of all people, but like of most people you are going to meet. Don't know if you are aware of this. I'm born and raised in Oklahoma. All of my family is down there. I will be in Norman Sunday. The Sunday, yeah, I said that correctly. It bugs me. The first Sunday night of college football season, I'll be in Norman when they play Houston. Diehard Thunder fan. The way in which I woke up to the news Kevin Durant left us was angering. However, I appreciate the guy. I'm definitely over it, obviously, because what are you going to do? Hold a grudge against a guy you don't know? Come on, man. And it's what was the really turning thing for me was the day, because I was just like, yeah, whatever. Like I remember, but what was the turning point for me where it was like, okay, I'm completely over it, was when he looked at the media and he was like, I'm Kevin Durant. Y'all know who I am. I was like, okay, that's a guy that gets it. So yeah, the Kyrie worries for sure. However, Kevin Durant is not a dumb guy. I'm not calling Kyrie a dumb guy, but Kevin Durant's sharp. He is. And there is something to say about, the glue that holds things together. And I think if Kevin Durant acts as that, I don't see why they are not the favorites year in and year out in the Eastern Conference whenever they get fully healthy. The supporting cast thing is my question. Are they keeping Dinwiddie? Are they keeping I know they're not obviously already done, and we can segue right into it. D'Angelo Russell gone. And that was why was I told today that somebody saw that coming? Like, what? No, you didn't. Like, I did not see that coming. I didn't see it coming from right in front of my face. Your take whenever you found out D'Angelo Russell joined the Golden State Warriors.
I didn't see it coming, but it makes sense. And the reason why I say it makes sense is because it was my own fault I didn't see it coming, in the sense that the Golden State Warriors are too smart to just let Kevin Durant walk away. So from that perspective, I feel like I should have known it was coming, but I didn't. So I feel like you have something to tell me.
No, John. No, Keith just played a cruel joke.
Oh, okay.
On one of my group chats, he just did. You got to see what he said. He sent a fake screenshot of Okamoto breaking that John pissed hot.
Oh, we should have known there
my-
was going to be one. It's just a matter of what day, like how long in the. Yeah, of course, there's always going to be the fake John Jones rumor.
And people are falling for it. I love it. I love it. Oh man. But anyway.
No, you're right. I didn't see it coming, but I do understand how intelligent the Golden State Warriors are. And even this late in the game, it's another paradigm shift, I think, in the NBA. This late in the game, they're still trying to work out a sign and trade. Like, they're really using the full complement of the time that they have available to sort of like move on from somebody. As long as they still have Kevin Durant on the books and they can make something happen, I thought it was genius. I mean, there was all this talk of D'Angelo Russell going to LA. And listen, even if he doesn't play for the Golden State Warriors, he's kind of in like Boogie Cousins' situation. He's making a hell of a lot more money, but he's there just to see what we have, right? D'Angelo Russell comes out next year, and him and Steph Curry are amazing. And he's hitting for 26 points, and him and Curry are running weaves, and he's the third splash brother. Then yeah, everybody's ready to roll. But I just think that he's probably one and done there. My big concern, the thing I'm thinking about with this, is how long does it take for Draymond Green to have a problem with D'Angelo Russell's contract? That's what's interesting to me.
You know, and someone brought this up the other day. I mean, what are they going to do when Clay gets back? I mean, like, are we going to stand around and act like that's a good fit? It's not. And now that, I mean, I guess I really want to know what your take on that is. What are you going to do after whatever happens with this roster going into next season? What do you do in 2020 when Clay's healthy?
Well, again, he's still an asset, Russell is, and he's playing in a very favorable offense. So if I am the Warriors, I'm taking advantage of the fact that I have this great offense for D'Angelo Russell. I'm letting him get his with the understanding of that I'm going to move forward however I'm going to move forward. And if he blows up, then he's just more attractive to whoever I'm going to trade him for. And then we get some bigs or whatever we need. We get, the next Andre Iguodala. We get the next whoever. So I think he has tremendous value to the Golden State Warriors, even more than just on the court. I think they let the kid do his thing, man. They let him ball, and then the more he balls, any attempts they do, and I if I'm them, I go right to Clay and I say, listen, brother, you're out for the year. There's no coming back early. There's no there's no Clay doing an E60 that his rehab was super fast. And I don't give a shit how fast your rehab is. Take your time. I just signed you to this huge deal, right? I gave you the first year so that I get the other 4. So take that first year and take your time. D'Angelo Russell is an insurance policy. He's nothing else. That's how I would look at it. We don't even know if this guy can play for sure.
D'Angelo?
He had one good year. I mean, he had one good. I'm saying he hasn't strung together 3 years of this, Davidson. I'm not saying he can't ball. I'm saying he did it with a very. I mean, Brooklyn had a good offense. I mean, I don't think that he's done it over time.
Right, and that's understandable. However, one thing that is consistent within D'Angelo Russell is that he has improved year to year. You look across the numbers, and I am actually right now. I mean, assists career high, points career high, turnovers career low. When your assists are at your career high and your turnovers are at your career low, you're getting better, man. It does come down to what type of offer will entice them enough to move him, because I mean, like, maybe they don't have a suitable trading partner. Maybe they try to milk it. What I think overall with D'Angelo Russell is I go into the mind of D'Angelo Russell. Granted, whether or not he hid weed in a water bottle on a plane ever, hey man, you don't hide contraband in contraband. That's the first step. and you have to wonder, what does he do when he stands there in the mirror and he's like, come on, man, I'm playing the best ball of my career. This is assuming if he gets traded in a year. Why does nobody want me? I don't know. And I think the Nets, obviously, he was in the wrong place at the wrong time with the Nets, who had enough cap room to do what they did. And obviously anybody with the brain would have taken the situation the Nets are in now over just having D'Angelo and still trying to rebuild. But, I don't know, man. I think the kid can play. I think the insurance policy thing is probably 100% correct. And it's going to be interesting to see what the Warriors get for him. And here's someone's name you said, sticking on the Warriors momentarily. Andre Iguodala getting moved to the Memphis Grizzlies yesterday. It appears to me at least that the Warriors are up to something, whether or not it is immediately impending or if it has something to do with way along the line. It looks like it's way along the line because they got picks 2024, 2025. I think a 2024 and two 2025s. But now you don't have, that active hand defender like he did in the playoffs. He's like, what are these? I mean, one of the more active-handed defenders on the wing that we have in the NBA. It's going to be a different look Golden State Warriors next year.
Yeah, that was one of my questions so when I process teams and even, we do fight stuff, but mostly when I process the NBA, I just look at the team and I say, what are my questions? What do I need to know about these teams? So here's my challenge I'm going to put out to you. And this is not to hijack the situation, but I have my questions. Let's just run through the league and let's chop it up. Is that something you're into?
I'm into, if sports are involved, I'm into it, man.
All right. So here's the deal. My question was, we already covered the Golden State Warriors. So let's start today, right? Atlanta Hawks. I got no interest in the Hawks. Tell me something you care about. I like Trae Young, but I mean, they're not.
I was about to say I can't relate.
Relate. Let's move on to Boston. Go ahead.
I was just saying I can't relate just because of the fact, in terms of right now, Trae Young, me being from Oklahoma, obviously the bias is there. But going forward, man, I mean, you want to talk about the Atlanta Hawks? They had one of the top three best drafts. They had one of the top three best drafts in the league. I think they did phenomenal. I think Minnesota did phenomenal. And, that team has a bright future. Right now, sure, I'll give it to you. There's not really much to talk about, but give it about 2 or 3 years. They're going to start making some noise down at State Farm Arena.
So I'll hit you with a question for them. Okay. Cam Reddish, you think he's the real deal?
I'm not sure. And the reason why I'm not sure, I really don't have an educated take on it because we were robbed of it whenever he committed to Duke. I don't. Sure, man, stack the decks, try to win a title, do it. They obviously didn't. But one really, really brings into question why the number 3 recruit in America, who is the final guy of the top 3 to commit anywhere, completely sacrifices and effectively gives up the assumed notion that he is going to dominate as the number 1 option at any other school in America and effectively boost his draft stock to be the 3rd option. I'm not sure because of that exactly. However, if he can ascend to the ceiling that people dawned on him, yeah, I mean, that he does a lot of things well. He shoots really well for his size. He rebounds really well for the position he plays. He's going to at least attempt to play defense. Now, how well he can guard in the NBA, that's yet to be seen. But that's exactly what I'm talking about when you bring up Cam Reddish. Cam, Trae Young, and I'm already blanking on who they picked with the 4th pick. Oh, man, DeAndre Hunter. And that was a situation in which they went up and got a guy that was their guy. I don't know, man. I think the future's bright.
So this is a conversation for another day, but I think that, again, me being a much older guy than you, I think that in the past, what would happen is the pros were the pros, and you had to adjust to the pros. Now it's a little bit opposite in the sense that everything that comes before the pros is affecting the pro game even more. See it in the NFL, certainly see it in the NBA. Where I see in the NBA and where I see kind of the Cam Reddish thing is that, colleges became AAU. Meaning everybody wanted to play together. These guys were all buddies. They all wanted to create these super teams. When I was a kid, you wanted to go and be the stud. Being the stud of the school, didn't matter where you went, made you go higher in the draft. And then you went higher in the draft, you made your money. And then you went to the NBA. You had a team. You tried to make that team great. You never moved. It's different now. So I would be interested to see how these guys mature, and we'll have the conversation about how the lower ranks have affected the pros some other day. All right, the Celtics.
Yeah, Celtics. Obviously,
let's talk about Kemba Walker.
Storyline. Yeah, big storyline there is Kemba Walker.
How much of a drop off from Kyrie to Kemba, in your opinion?
I'm not saying it's drastic. Here is where this is an advantageous position for the Celtics. Kyrie talent, Kemba talent. There's a little bit of a drop off there. I think most people would agree with the sentiment that Kyrie is the better overall player. Better fit and better plug and chug type of like you take out Kyrie and put in this guy. It's hard to argue that he is not even close. A way better fit for the system that Brad Stevens tries to run than Kyrie is offensively and defensively. What do you make of that?
I agree. I think he's a more coachable player. He's a more willing teammate. What about the loss of Al Horford? Do you think someone on the roster takes Horford's place in terms of the locker room presence? And is there someone there? Can Kemba do it? Is it Jaylen Brown? I don't see it from Jason Tatum. Like, who do you think it is?
I think it would have to be Kemba, and I think Kemba is capable of it. You know, we have to remember Kemba in the time in which, Bobcats and Hornets combined, that guy's the leading scorer in franchise history. Whenever I read that, I was like, whoa, is he really? And he really is. That guy has been, like kind of in that leader, like flagship role, I think. And I think he's tried to do his best, but I mean, that's exactly why he left. Like, hey man, like it's been good. It's been real, but I have a limited window in this league and I'm trying to get me some rings. And when it comes down to, there being a leadership type of role, the veteran is normally who would coin in that role. And to answer your question about the big man thing, they did sign Enes Kanter today. Whether I do believe that he is going to end up starting at the 5 for them, I'm not positive. However, I would say that's not an ideal scenario, and they're probably still looking for who's going to start down in the paint for them next season.
It's an interesting roster. You have Jaylen Brown, you have Gordon Hayward, you have Enes Kanter, you have Marcus Morris, Marcus Smart, Tatum, Kemba. I think they have what they need. So I'll end two questions. I'll end the Boston Celtics talk with you on. How important was Terry Rozier? Because he's gone now. And are they better than they were last year?
I got to say they're not. I have to say they probably won't be. It's going to take something that's very real in the NBA that I can't stand when people, extend out the narrative that it's a myth. Chemistry is very real in the NBA. If that were not a fact, LeBron, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh would have went 4 for 4. They did not win the title in their first season, let alone they were not even in the top 3 in the Eastern Conference come the All-Star break of that season, because it takes time for things to gel in the NBA, especially whenever, we say all these things about systems and blah, blah, blah. A lot of time it's isolation, get out of the way. I got to take this guy to the rim. And at transition now, and certainly a lot of the implement of the pick and roll to where threes are open. And it's hard to imagine that while I did say Kemba is a better fit, will they be better defensively? I can't see a world in which they're not. But I don't know if they're going to score as many points. And I guess this is the beauty of it. We will see Kemba with a little bit of a raised, not only a little bit of a raised platform, he's going to be on TV a lot more. The bar is raised. The expectations are there. The eyeballs are on him. And I guess we will find out how he handles it.
All right. Keeping with the Terry Rozier thing. Charlotte Hornets. You think Terry Rozier is ready to be the man?
No, I don't. I like Terry Rozier. I think he fits his role that he ran with really well in Boston. I've also been following Terry Rozier's career very closely since he was in high school. He went to Shaker Heights. He went to Shaker Heights High School before he went the academy and ultimately the European route. And me living in Ohio, his state championship games were on TV. I've never really got the feeling watching him, and I normally do even when guys are young. Wiggins I did, Towns I did, that he would be the type of guy to carry a load on his back in the NBA. What do you make of that?
I don't see it either. I think that he was in a very, very good situation, and I think he took he made the best of it. And I think he got a ton of money based on his proficiency as a backup, but I think that's probably all it'll ever be. All right, Bulls. What about Kobe White? I feel like he's the best player nobody's talking about. This guy can be an all-star.
Yeah, I think.
You know what he needs, Davidson? No one hears me on this. You know what he needs?
Yeah.
He needs a haircut. When guys have afros, I don't know what it is. They just are. They seem like they're flakier. Like they're just kind of. If he had cornrows or a haircut, we would look at him like. I guarantee you would have got higher in the draft if he hadn't got a haircut. Anyway, he looks like a stud though, man. He's bigger than you think he is. He's good, man.
Yeah, and the guy can shoot for his position too. Really, really an elite level athlete. At least at the point guard position coming out of this draft as well. Maybe only, in my opinion, is Ja Morant, at least higher on that proverbial totem pole per se in that regard. Here's my thing. That guy, at least from what I understand and obviously could be wrong. I doubt I am. That guy to me looks like he is a great teammate. Here's why I say that. He's very pass first. He's very unselfish. So, I mean, just even coining the term unselfish, I think is unfair. Selfless is a good way to describe how he operates at the point guard position. And I mean, even look away from basketball. Did you see the clip of him in the press conference after the draft when, by the way, I'll say it, could not disagree more with the move he's talking about. I actually went on Twitter and ranted about how idiotic I thought it was, but the Suns and taking not even taking Cam Johnson at 11, but doing the trade that they ultimately went about that put them there. But Cam was his teammate, transferred from Pittsburgh for his senior year. And Cam Johnson, say what you want about him, he's the oldest guy. He was the oldest player taken in this draft. He's older than Devin Booker by 2 years. He's the best shooter in this draft. Period. There's no debate. That guy's the best shooter in the draft. And when and they were teammates, and when he found out that he got drafted, he stopped the press conference. He said, "You're lying to me." Like he said that to the press. Did you see any clips of that? He's like, "You're lying to me." He's like, Cam went 11. He's like, "I feel so happy for that guy." He's like, he's such a good dude. There's something about a guy that is selfless like that. In his personality and in the way in which he plays that can open a lot of doors for a team that's young and growing like the Bulls.
All right, I'm looking at this Cleveland Cavaliers roster, and it's all over the place. So I'll just ask you this. Do we have anything in Colin Sexton coming out? I felt like he was something, but yet it hasn't really materialized. I felt like he was kind of neck and neck with De'Aaron Fox, and now Fox just blew his doors off. So, you know what I mean? Like when they took Sexton, it was like, this guy's got something. No, yeah. And now I don't see it anymore.
Well, my feelings on Sexton, at least coming into the league, was that he was an electrifying. He was an electricity jolt on the court. That's what he was at Alabama. He did a lot of things at Alabama he wasn't supposed to do. And here is what I'll say though: I don't think Sexton is the focus. I think going forward for the Cavs, I think a young man by the name of Darius Garland that they just drafted. I am sky high on Darius Garland. I think that guy could end up being the best player in this draft. Nobody talked about. I mean, there's so many things he does that are so NBA ready that nobody saw in this league, or I mean, in this past year, because he blew out his Achilles 7 games in and didn't play anymore. He's got elite level quickness. He is so good at coming in, or he is so good at pulling up off the dribble. Not as efficient as a playmaker or a shot creator that like a Ja Morant is, but the guy's the quickest player in the draft. He has a lot of facets in his game that are already NBA ready. That I personally don't even think Colin Sexton has still developed.
All right, Dallas Mavericks. Doncic, re-signed Porzingis, re-signed Seth Curry. I don't know. What do you see here?
All I know is whenever I will have the opportunity to watch Doncic and Kristaps on the same floor, I'm going to put it on my TV. I am really, really intrigued to see how that works out. I mean, do you have any general feeling of how you think it is? I think they might gel together really well.
I think Luka Doncic and Kristaps Porzingis is the most terrifying pick and roll. I would take that pick and roll if they're both healthy. Dude, this might be blasphemy. I would almost take that pick and roll over LeBron and AD. If I had to pick
I don't know about
If I had to pick one to defend, Davidson, Luka's got better range than LeBron.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
At this point, his step's about the same.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, LeBron will put you on a poster. Luka might kind of get past you and put a layup there. But Kristaps has, I don't know if Kristaps has more range than AD. Let's say it's a pick and pop. Fate of your life on the line. Would you rather have a healthy Kristaps taking it or a healthy AD?
Well,
Your life's on the line, Davidson.
let's just get off the bat that I'm dying. Okay, I'm gonna
All right.
die. I'm gonna write out my will, and I'm gonna tell everyone I love them that I love them.
Got it.
and you know, if I'm gonna do it, if I'm gonna try to defend this pick and roll to save my life,
Who would you rather have taken the
um,
shot?
man, I think LeBron and AD. I think you're right. I think it was a knee jerk type of thing at first, but dude, I mean, say what you want about AD's range. I mean, Kristaps a better shooter than AD? I think
I think he is, man.
I think it's possible.
I think he is.
No, yeah, I agree. And then you bring up Kristaps and you think all the way back to what we were talking about with the Knicks, man. The whole point of trading the guy, whether or not he came in and said he wanted out or not, it wasn't the whole like, this is why we're doing it, to sign 2 max players.
Right. Yeah.
Yikes, dude. I think Dallas is going to be fun to watch, though.
My thing is you already have a max player, right? So keep Kristaps and sign somebody else.
Apparently, Kristaps walked into management office.
Yeah, that's true. I remember that. That's right.
The meeting was 4 minutes long, from what I understand. It took 4 minutes for him to tell them that he wanted out. That's a pretty abrupt way to go and tell your employer, "Hey, get me the fuck out of here," you know?
Yeah. All right, Denver.
I think they're scary. I think they're very scary going forward.
They re-signed Jamal Murray. That's all I'm seeing. I mean, so they're staying pat. And with everything that's going on in Houston, everything's going on in Golden State, the flux of LA right now, if they get Kawhi, the depth. I mean, was staying pat the move?
Yes, and here's why. They're rolling the dice. They're rolling the dice, and here's why. They have 2 players stashed right now. One they just drafted, one they drafted last year, who, if those 2 guys, if these 2 players I'm about to tell you operate at the level of potential that they had put on their shoulders, I mean, we're talking about an absolute nightmare in this NBA. I'm talking about Michael Porter Jr. and Bol. Neither of those guys have played a minute in the NBA yet, so obviously we've got some chops to see if they have. However, all I do know is at one point in time, both of those guys have spent, for whatever period of time it has been, viewed upon as top 3, top 5, if not top draft picks. If those 2 can get healthy and those 2 can get to the level people thought they could be, that's a scary, scary team in the Western Conference, in my opinion.
I mean, listen, you're looking at these guys, and it's like, imagine all you're counting on from Bol is 5 minutes. How great are those 5 minutes? You know, that's all you're asking from the guy. You know,
for now,
thing with Porter Jr., 10 minutes. I think these guys should relish the fact that's all that's being expected of them now, and take this time to develop. I'm in the NBA system, and I really think they could run with it. All right, Pistons signed Derrick Rose. They got Blake Griffin. I mean, anybody care? Anything going on here?
8 or 9 seed in the East, and if they make the playoffs, they'll be out in 4 or 5 games. Next.
All right, Golden State Warriors. We talked about Houston Rockets. Well, Houston Rockets. Can you think the Harden Paul thing can be fixed? Can't get rid of Paul.
Maybe, yeah. There's no way. No. I can't find them finding a trade partner with Chris Paul. That would just be like, yeah, dude. Open up their mouths. Give us that contract. Fire hose.
Yeah.
It's just. It's an impossible contract to trade. I mean, and who the hell knows what type of money Harden will make whenever it's time for him to re-up. But do I think that they can eventually right the ship? Sure. Especially now with with their kryptonite out, at least for what most people believe out of the picture for temporarily. Here's my question. Why the hell were you ever thinking about trading for Jimmy Butler? You think that's going to work? You think 3 guys that need to be ball dominant all on the floor at one time? Haven't we seen this before? Yeah. Like, haven't we seen that before? You're wasting your time. And I understand where Daryl Morey's coming from. One of the most agreed upon quotes from my side of things in the history of me reading anything in the NBA was when Daryl Morey acquired Chris Paul, and he said, "Look, dude, this league is an arms race. It's like it doesn't matter how good you are. It's not 2007 anymore, where LeBron can take Boobie Gibson, Anderson Varejao, and company to the finals. That's not how it works anymore. You got to go out there and you got to go get stars, and you got to basically, proverbially sack the deck. So he's not gonna shy away from that. I don't think yet. Can they win the West this year? I don't know. I think a lot of teams are getting better, and I don't know how much better they got.
Yeah, it's the contract and it's the attitude. And I'm not a huge Chris Paul fan because there's a flaw in Chris Paul that I see that I don't hear talked about a lot, which is whenever guys, sometimes type A gets mistaken for this is the only way I can succeed. It's like, oh, I'm a type A and I need to have things done my way. Well, why can't you succeed any other way? So if you need things so put in your way and so like, framed for you, how good are you really? Like if everything has to be perfectly the Chris Paul scenario for him to be successful, then maybe he's not that great after all. He should be able to come in and understand. I have a guy, James Harden is putting up, let's say Chris Paul were a top 5 point guard in this league. Let's just say he is. I don't think he is. I think he's top 10, but let's say he's top 5.
For the record, I disagree, but go ahead.
Well, no, but let's say he is top 5.
Yeah.
James Harden is a top 5 player in this league, not top 5 point guard. Chris Paul still thinks that he's on the New Orleans Hornets or he just got traded to the Clippers. Yeah. Dude, you need to be finding every way that you can to get the ball and get along with James Harden.
I think he's having a hard time I think he's having a hard time accepting that, don't you?
I do because the honest part about it is that Harden does a lot to dribble as well. So if Harden needs the ball and he draws a crowd and he kicks it to Paul, I don't think Paul has confidence in that spot up jumper, and he doesn't want to be that guy, even if he does. So I don't know, man. I think that they're not long for this world, but it's one of those things where you can't seem to love them and you can't seem to trade them. All right, Pacers. Picked up Brogdon, picked up Jeremy Lamb. How good's Malcolm Brogdon?
Good. Very good. Very good.
I love that signing. Did he change this thing? How do you view the Pacers now?
I definitely view them as a team that is a little bit better. Yeah.
Upper half of the playoffs?
You like right around the cutoff line. Like I'd say 4 or 5, like in that general range. With Oladipo, that is a team that a lot of people have already forgotten. It took LeBron James to a Game 7, and it was not a fluke. They played really well in that series. It was not like, oh, the Cavs are playing awful. Obviously, there weren't things they did great in that series, but the Pacers played really well. This is a team, obviously losing Bogdanovich is one thing, but you get a guy in Malcolm Brogdon that I have absolutely no problem saying has the potential, if he's not already there, to be a top 5 defender at the point guard position in this league. And you also add a guy in Jeremy Lamb that can provide volume scoring as well as not fantastic shooting, but shooting that will get you enough times it falls to the bottom of the net coming off the bench. I don't know. In the Eastern Conference, and especially coming up this season, where the net, I mean, do you think they're on paper right now? Do you think they're better than the Nets without Kevin Durant?
Yes.
I do too.
Yeah.
I agree 100%. I think that's a team that nobody's talking about. Obviously, because I don't know if, okay, no, I'm certain they're not championship ready, but it's a roster that's going to win games.
All right, next 2, Clippers, Lakers. Obviously, everything swings with Kawhi.
Yep.
Are they both championship favorites if they sign Kawhi, or just one?
No, just the Lakers. I don't know if in the West. In the West, I don't know if the Clippers are the favorite. However, they're going to be in the thick of it for sure.
Is the Clippers roster better with Kawhi than the Raptors were with Kawhi?
Oh, that's a good question. So I'm going to pull up this roster right now so that I know exactly what I'm working with. So we have, so if you had Kawhi, you have, dude, I mean, arguably the greatest 6th man of all time, not because of the numbers he put up, but because Drake has a song coined for him in Lou Williams. Danilo Gallinari, Montrezl Harrell. You got a really, really young and bright future in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. That kid really impressed me. Dude,
that kid's a swing player, man. He could go.
He's a stud.
If he pops wherever the Clippers are a whole different team.
He's a
He's
stud.
kind of like Tatum. Like when Tatum popped and you're like, oh shit, now the Celtics are up, He's kind of like that to me.
I saw the potential in him too towards the end of his year at Kentucky. He was kind of meh throughout a little bit of it, had a little bit of trouble getting off the ground per se, and really flowing within Calipari's offense. I mean, it's not a hard offense to get. However, man, I mean, he really came on strong in those last couple months. He boosted his draft stock, and he deserves it because, yeah, I agree. That guy's a stud. Now, is that roster better than the Raptors with Kawhi? I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I don't know if they would be the championship favorites. At least it's certainly not coming out of the West.
All right, let's skip over to the Grizzlies. They got Iguodala, they got Jonas Valanciunas, and they got John Morant.
Yeah,
So, what do you think about them? Are they out of the basement?
not yet, but the light at the end of the tunnel is probably getting closer. I don't see this team being a playoff team right now. It really just depends on how much of a pop John Morant has, because John Morant, in my opinion, dude, I'll even go as far as saying I think Darius Garland is more of a sure thing. I'm not saying that I don't think John Morant can be great. He absolutely can. But John Morant is the textbook definition, not of high risk, high reward, but of high ceiling, low floor. Like 100%. If he is closer to that floor range, the Grizzlies are going to pay for it.
So this has nothing to do with anything, but I got to tell you this story. So Utah, Watanabe.
Yeah, I think so.
He was playing in the summer league. I was watching the summer league game. They said Watanabe means the chosen one. So I had to look this up. Watanabe, undrafted. Maybe he wasn't the chosen one, Davidson, if he wasn't even drafted, for Christ's sakes. All right, so Heat. They got Jimmy Butler.
Yeah. Well, I think back to the point in 2012.
It's a cash grab, right, Davidson?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh,
hey. Well, who's he got around him now? I mean, no Hassan Whiteside. He finds himself in Portland when he woke up this morning, still a member of the Miami Heat. And how good is Kelly Olynyk? Like how good is Tyler Johnson? You know, Josh Richardson,
Winslow. Yeah.
Oh, I like Winslow for sure.
Yeah, but I'm not. He's not gonna be like. I don't see Justice Winslow being Jimmy Butler's CJ McCollum.
No, certainly not. Maybe like if you put it in an analogy sense, maybe on defense, just because Winslow is a great defender, but no, certainly not with the ball in his hands. For some reason, they always hover around. If they're not, in contention, they always hover around that playoff spot. I think they're in one of those like awful situations where teams get stuck. Like, because you're either benefiting from being really bad, had you not idiotically traded your draft picks, or you're obviously benefiting from being really good. Not a lot of teams benefit from that. If there's with 30 teams in the NBA, not a lot of teams benefit from that like 11 to 16 or 17-ish range where you're not making the playoffs and you're not getting high draft picks. I think the Heat might be kind of stuck right there.
Bucks re-signed Middleton, the Lopez brothers, George Hill.
Hey, I think they have the most under-talked about and undervalued signing of this free agency period so far.
Who? George Hill?
Wesley Matthews.
Oh yeah, that's right. They did sign Wesley Matthews.
I think it makes it's unfair how much sense it makes. He's gonna fit right in there perfectly.
I like him a lot. It's funny when we look at guys and they get signed to certain teams, like they get signed to the Bucks or they get signed to the Rockets or the Grizzlies. We're just like, you kind of dismiss it. And then, but if they got signed to the Lakers right now, we'd be like, holy shit, the Lakers got Wesley Matthews. It's just like that. It's funny how we sort of reframe things because it's like we know the Lakers are trying to build their roster, but it's interesting that we'll downplay guys when they go to other teams and had the Lakers get, we're flipping out when the Lakers got Lance Stevenson last year. All right, T-Wolves. What do you got here?
I think they won the first round of the draft. I do know that. Maybe it was the manner in which I can never remember the name of the movie. What's the name of the movie with Tom Cruise on the pirate ship and the I'm the Captain Now people?
It's Tom Hanks. And
Tom Hanks. Screw me. I should slap myself for
it's Captain Phillips.
Captain Phillips. So that happened in Phoenix the night of the draft, I guess. They walked in and were like, look at me. I'm the captain now. Because what the hell are you doing? Moving back 5 spots, taking a cap hit. I feel like the Timberwolves are sitting in the front office, they're like, yeah, hold on, they're actually gonna take it, and everyone else don't
say anything, don't fuck it
up, something like that. And man, they went up and got another guy that I put in maybe the opposite of like how I feel about John Morant. Well, obviously John Morant his ceiling is higher. A guy in Jarrett Culver is somebody who has a pretty high floor, like a really high floor as far as an NBA prospect is concerned. You already know he's going to be he's going to be an incredible defender in the NBA. He locked anyone down that he was in the proverbial area of in college. Usually when you do that, you'll be fine in the NBA. I'm not calling him Bruce Bowen, but I think he'll be okay. And the Timberwolves are now, I mean, sure, you hang your head on the fact that you didn't get D'Angelo Russell. From everything I understood, they were trying vehemently hard to make that happen. Obviously, it doesn't happen. I think you just have to figure out what you're going to do with Wiggins. Is Wiggins a bust yet? I keep hearing people say Wiggins is a bust. He hasn't lived up to what he was supposed to do yet, but I'm not ready to label him a bust.
I don't know about a bust. It depends on if your only qualification for him not being a bust is that he realized his potential, then he's a bust. But if you have like a lesser sort of like, let's say you thought he's gonna be a 10-time All-Star and he's a 5-time All-Star or a 3-time All-Star, I think anybody that is still a second option on their team can't be described as a bust. But I think people expected so much of him, that's kind of how they looked at it. All right.
Yeah, I agree.
Pelicans, they picked up J.J. Redick. Let me talk about this for a second because J.J. Redick reminds me of Chael Sonnen. Here's why. You're thinking makes no sense, right? Chael Sonnen, I believe, fought certain guy, or he has the kind of resume that makes for like a hell of a book, makes him a better analyst. He's fought every great fighter of all time. So he's positioned himself to be the best analyst forever. J.J. Redick keeps finding himself on these teams with these young superstars to where he now becomes more marketable post-career because he's played with Ben Simmons. He's played with Joel Embiid. Now he's playing with Zion Williamson. So it's interesting the choices he's making to me. That aside, what's the ceiling for this team? What can they do?
I think they can go really far. I think
this year?
No, not this year. Not this year.
Are they a playoff team this year?
Doubt it. I doubt it. Year two, here's what we're going to see. And here's something that I'm willing to predict and go on the record and say there is going to be an insane way in which the graph, like the hypothetical graph you look in front of, where the line just spikes between year 1 and 2. It's going to take them some time. I love their head coach, their hiring of Monty Williams. I love their hiring of new general manager David Griffin. I find it very hard to criticize and look down upon or doubt, per se, a team that has guys like Monty Williams and guys like David Griffin that have been there, done that, and have succeeded in that particular role. Now, maybe Monty Williams, not so much to the effect that David Griffin has at the head coaching position. However, I mean, a guy that knows his way in and out of the league, has been an assistant and a head coach, for over a decade, maybe even 2. I can't even remember off the top of my head. But there's a lot of reasons to like the team going forward. Obviously, they're just so young. The NBA gets to, while it is what it is in October, it becomes the man's league. It ultimately shows in the playoffs closer to March and April. And I think no matter how well they start or how exciting they are to watch, I don't think we'll see him in April.
The thing that interests me about this team is the Lonzo Ball, Drew Holiday relationship. Both point guards, both went to UCLA. How they play those guys and how they interact with each other. And if Holiday is interested in helping Ball develop as a player, if Griffin anyway facilitates that, if Monty Williams in any way facilitates that, I just think those two go, so go this team. If you can get quality minutes out of both those guys and Lonzo Ball evolves, then everybody else becomes better. That's what I'm interested to see in this team. All right.
That's what I've always loved about Lonzo too. The last thing I'll say, and here's the last question I'll ask in that type of realm. What's your take on LeVar Ball?
My take on LeVar Ball is, Drake had a funny joke, and it probably is different coming from Drake's mouth than my mouth based on, our backgrounds. But Drake said that, LeVar Ball is bucking that that black dad trend of being around too much. And it was just, and I thought that was a funny line by Drake. But
That
listen,
is funny.
the guy loves his sons, and I think that he needs to, at some point, and Lonzo's already starting to do this. He just has to push back and say, "Listen, Dad, you got me here. Now it's time for me to take it from here." And the only person that can say that to him is Lonzo, and other people that try and I think interject and keep Lonzo out or LeVar out of practices and all that. It's got to be Lonzo, man. And if Lonzo, here's my take on the whole situation. If Lonzo isn't the man enough to tell his dad to take a walk, you don't want him anyway. You don't want a guy leading your team that can't tell his dad to shut the fuck up in the media. If my old man was running his mouth in the media, the first call I would make would be to him. Listen, Pops, keep your mouth shut in the media. This is my career. Don't fuck it up.
Yeah, no, I feel
that would be the phone call. And if you can't stand up to your old man, and I understand all the stuff that has to do with families and dynamics, and you grew up with them and all that, but if you can't stand up to your family, you sure as shit can't run my team.
Yeah, and you sure as shit can't control a locker room, especially, you know, in a sense where Lonzo was expected to, at least before he got drafted to the Lakers and was put on the roster in which he was put on. A guy that's supposed to lead a team, a guy that undoubtedly, and the reason I love Lonzo so much is because he makes everybody around him better, and he's done that so early in his career. Last thing I'll say about anything about that until we move on to the next team. Next year's draft is very interesting because LaMelo will be eligible, and LaMelo will be drafted, and it will be in the first round. What type of situation does LeVar impede and or not impede on that? That's the question.
It's a good one because, you know, he's starting to become where you don't want to deal with. He's a little bit like, and this is a crazy analogy, but he's a little bit like Kaepernick in the sense that his sons are talented, but you don't want to deal with the baggage.
Yeah,
so,
that's a perfect point.
So even though that became the reason why nobody picked up Kaepernick,
yeah,
and I think he needs to realize in the lead up to next year's draft that he's doing his kids more harm than good, and hopefully he will. And you know, it's funny. I put something on Twitter last week because I was talking about the Democratic National Convention. And I was saying I used the old Rick Pitino Boston Celtics thing where he said, you know, Larry Bird's not walking through that door, folks. Kevin McHale's not walking through that door, and Robert Parrish. If I'm I will say this, although it is Lonzo Ball's responsibility, if I'm the management for the Pelicans, I say publicly, I go, listen, Drew Holiday's dad's not walking through that door, folks. I'm not worried about Drew Holiday's dad. I'm not worried about, you know, anybody else's dad. I got this guy. So he needs to take advantage of it. All right, let's get through the rest of these kind of in a rush. OKC, what do you think there?
I don't even want to talk about it, man. I'm a Thunder fan, obviously, through and through. Till we fire Billy Donovan, there's not much to talk about. Going to be 46-36 and getting eliminated in the first round until they come to their senses and fire him.
Okay, Orlando Magic. They signed Terrence Ross, Al-Farouq Amin, Nikola Vucevic.
Yeah, very important that they re-signed Vucevic. Vucevic, one of the most underrated players in the league. There would have been Boston Celtics, like you said earlier, and like you asked me earlier, how much are the Celtics better? The Celtics would have been. I would have had no problem saying the Celtics are absolutely a better team today with Kemba and Vucevic than with just Kyrie. I think Vucevic is that good.
1-8, where the Magic fall in the playoff situation? Are they in?
Maybe if they are, it's between 6 and 8, and they'll probably be disposed of early.
Sixers re-signed Tobias Harris, signed Al Horford. I think re-signed Mike Scott. How does Horford change the locker room? What effect does he have on Embiid?
He changes the locker room and has a tremendous effect on Embiid. This is a veteran presence of a guy that's put in his dues and has done everything. Just about everything you would expect of a veteran of his caliber. From what I understand, and from everything that I've read, the full intention of Horford and every idea that they had going forward was for him to stay in Boston. From what I understand, Boston wanted that too. And where the cookie crumbled was they sat down, they said, all right, let's get down to it. Boston made their initial offer, and Al Horford was so disgusted and offended he didn't even want to think about resigning.
Wow.
That is from what I understand happened.
Can Scott and Harris make up for Butler's offense?
I am not sure if Scott and Harris are the ones to point to. I think Embiid and Horford will reap the benefit of that a little bit. I think you'll see Embiid's numbers go up. I think Horford's numbers will be just as, if not as good as they've ever been. And Ben Simmons will continue to not take a shot outside of 10 feet. So
it's a damn thing, man. I can't. I don't even want to get into that. It's insane.
Yeah, I was literally talking about it today. I mean, the guy, if he could just shoot. And Stephen A., as crazy as this sounds, and as much as a knee-jerk reaction as I wanted to have to it, one of the most intelligent things I think he's ever said was, it's Ben Simmons' fault they're not winning championships. It's like, because he can't shoot. That's
Dude, I don't know if it was
reason why.
I don't know if it was Stephen A., but somebody on either Get Up or The Jump said that if Ben Simmons could shoot, he'd be LeBron James.
I mean, that there would be no ceiling. That's an unguardable presence. If he can shoot, that's a guy that cannot be guarded. Period.
It's just crazy he's as successful as he is and doesn't even make an attempt to shoot. Phoenix Suns are the situation we have here in the Valley is similar to your situation with Billy Donovan. We're a mess until Robert Sarver's gone. Did you like Rubio pick up? I mean, it's not going to put him in the playoffs, but
I mean, it's just like, hey, he plays basketball. Let's give him money. Like that's what I viewed that as.
Here's a question I'd love to ask you. How long before Devin Booker's looking for a super team?
As soon as he becomes available.
He's the next guy, I think, that's the disgruntled guy. He's the next guy playing the AD card. He's a little bit too nice for it, but I think he's the next guy. He's the guy that deserves to do it.
What I'm saying is I think the move in which I have heavily criticized, and the aforementioned one in which they picked up Dario Saric's cap hit and moved back 5 spots to take a guy who might be the best shooter in the draft, but is the oldest player and most limited offensively player in the draft. To move back, I just like I said, I'm the captain now. That's all I think about. It reminded me of like a Browns-esque move before Ray Farmer and company got in town. I mean, just like no sense. None of it makes any sense. None of it helps them right now. None of it helps them going forward. Yeah, I don't know. I think that team might be the most dysfunctionally operated team in the NBA right now, in my opinion.
Trailblazers picked up Rodney Hood and Mario Hezonja. I mean, they went to the conference finals last year. Are you seeing anything there? I mean, are the Lakers better now and they're not in the conference finals? I mean, where did they fall as the West shakes out? Where did the Trailblazers settle?
Very high, I think. I think they finally figured it out. There were so many years that they spent, and I thought it was a miracle Terry Stotts kept his job, not because I think he's a bad coach and not because I think he hasn't done a good job, but just because of the fact that there were so many first-round exits in a row. But they stuck with them. I got to say also, as a Thunder fan, playing those guys 6 times a year is a bitch. Having to watch your favorite team try to limit Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum is much more of a bitch than people really realize. I mean, those 2 dudes are so difficult to contain. If the train continues to roll along the way it is, I don't see any reason why they don't end up back in the Western Conference Finals. Now, can they beat the Lakers if the Lakers get Kawhi? I'm almost certainly doubting it.
Sacramento Kings re-signed Barnes, Ariza. Listen, I haven't seen Ariza a lot lately. I hear he's washed. They got Corey Joseph. They're a good young team, but I mean, where are they at? I mean, are they close to anything here?
De'Aaron Fox has got to take the keys and go. But they're in that like Miami Heat type of thing. I mean, let's give the Kings this though. The Kings are no longer, at the doormat of the West, in my opinion. I think the Kings roster is definitely improved. I think that they are certainly in a much better situation than they were, when they were literally in the top 5 pretty much every single year in the draft, from right around the time that they had that exile in the early 2000s, pretty much to now. I mean, they haven't done anything in the past decade or so. That ship floats as De'Aaron Fox allows it to.
All right. So then I agree. I mean, I was a Kings fan for a minute when they had Weber and all those guys. I would, you start watching a team and then you like them. I just don't, I like some of the pieces they're putting together. I wish they could have figured it all out with Boogie, but I get that they haven't. All right, let's move on to the Raptors. The simple question here is, how good are they without Kawhi and DeRozan?
I don't know. I'm not thinking positively off the rip, in my opinion. Uh, it's easy to see that the door is going to open tremendously in the Eastern Conference. The door is wide open in the East, really, this next year. In my opinion, if you ask me, the Sixers are probably the favorite. But that's assuming Kawhi goes to La La Land in whichever capacity he decides. I don't know. I think they have talent. I think we might see a little if Pascal Siakam even continues to improve. That's a guy whose skill set really took a big jump and obviously was awarded in such of a manner by winning the Most Improved Player of the Year, deservedly. But
what's his ceiling though? I mean, he'll never be All NBA, right?
No, I don't know about All NBA.
Not like even third team. So maybe a couple All-Star teams. He can't carry them.
No,
right?
I don't think so. I think they're headed back down the ladder.
So the Jazz signed Bogdanovich. They got a nice little team.
They've got a great starting five. Think about it. Donovan Mitchell. You have Donovan Mitchell. You have Joe Ingles. You have Rudy Gobert. You have Bogdanovich. I'm leaving somebody out that's important. I know I am. Blah blah blah.
Rudy Gobert. You said
Gobert, Bogdanovich, Mitchell,
Conley.
Conley. Yeah. Being that he just got traded there, that's exactly why. That's a team I don't want to see in the playoffs. I know that. That is certainly a team I don't want to see in the playoffs. That little starting five right there, let alone who they have coming off the bench, that's a pretty solid unit. I think they can compete even in the West. Some people think I'm wrong though.
Wizards. Not much here.
Just signed Isaiah Thomas while we went on the air though.
Yeah. And so and Thomas Bryant. So what is there anything to keep an eye on here other than the fact that Bradley Beal may be in that same Devin Booker spot? No.
I was just going to say, if you weren't going to mention that, I was going to say that's what you got to keep your eyes solely on. And John Wall is still on the roster, people forgot about him given the injury. It's just everything is imploded. And normally when things implode, you find out a lot about the brass and the front office. Can they keep it contained or can they, panic and run around like their hair's on fire and freak out and make irrational decisions? I guess we'll find out. But they got to get something for Beal because he seems like he's on his way out.
If you had a choice between having Bradley Beal for the next 5 years or Masai Ujiri for the next 5 years, which would you rather have? Masai Ujiri.
The way in which he built that roster was fun. It was just phenomenal. He saw things before anybody else did. He almost single-handedly gave Toronto a championship. I see all the time, like Kawhi gave Toronto a championship. Who's the reason Kawhi's there? Masai Ujiri. And ultimately the Wizards didn't get him. And I mean, I don't know. That was the gold mine right there. I think Ujiri's an elite mind. In that realm, in my opinion.
Well, and he's got something that not a lot of GMs have, which is balls. I mean, it takes balls to sign Kawhi. It takes some, to maybe lose him. He just did some moves that I don't think everyone has what it takes to make.
Especially when going into it, like most people did. It's just like, oh, you're going to have him for a year, and they win the title, and that even proves to be true. You knew that going into it.
Well, and this is the crazy part about the NBA, and this is why I give Ujiri props, because it was a good move whether they won or not. The fact that he put them in position to win, right? Because a lot of people, our good buddy Keith Schilling included, say that they only won because Kevin Durant got hurt. Okay, that's fine. But if you don't have Kawhi, you're not in a position to take advantage of the fact that Kevin Durant got hurt. So I think that to me is like, it's still a good move if they don't win a title. And I think that what we should take from Ujiri, which we won't take, is that sometimes the moves that don't always result in championships were still good moves. Right. If the Lakers don't, and this is kind of my little closing piece here, but if the Lakers don't get Kawhi, it was still smart to wait.
I agree. And I think our good buddy Keith Schilling should remember, and this will be my closing remark as well, that there are no asterisks next to championships. When Vitor Belfort's glove effectively cut the eye of Randy Couture, do you think there's an asterisk next to his name when he's coined the UFC former light heavyweight champion of the world? I don't think so.
Yeah, I just think that and I'm interested to see how this whole thing plays out. I mean, the entire time we've been on this pod, I've been checking Twitter to make sure that
Yep.
we, didn't miss Woj, our boy
Me too. Me too.
Adrian,
Yeah.
AJ, AW hitting us with the real news. But yeah, man, I think that it's one of those things. I tweeted out that it's kind of like if you got a shot with Rihanna, you got to kind of curve Becky from accounting. And if you don't get Rihanna, you can't go, man, I should have just went with Becky. No, you should have tried for Rihanna. It sucks that you didn't make it happen, but you had to try. You had to go for it. And listen, the Lakers are trying to get Rihanna right now. And if they got to curve a couple of bums, could you imagine? And somebody said this on the jump that's the thing that is just the craziest thing. Could you imagine if you're the Lakers and Kawhi comes out and says, I wanted to sign with the Lakers, but they didn't wait. Like he says that after he signed, end of his career or 2 years later, I want to sign with the Lakers, they didn't wait. And you got to tell your fans, the reason why we didn't sign Kawhi is because we couldn't wait. And we signed Bojan Bogdanovic. Like I had to have Bogdanovic so bad that I didn't sign Kawhi.
Just even thinking of it is hilarious. Just even thinking of it is
you gotta wait. If you don't get him, you still got AD and you pick up the pieces.
Yeah, man. You got any closing remarks? Thanks, man, for obviously coming on.
That's it, man.
A lot, dude. You can go ahead, plug social media, plug anything you need. The floor is yours to let people know.
At SM Cornerman is where I can be followed. Loudmouth MMA Network is getting a banger of a podcast. Sunday Morning Cornerman, one of, if not the best recap there is. I don't care how many of you listen. I do care how many of you listen, but I challenge you to listen and not love it. So enjoy it. Keith and I will keep making it, and we'll see you after the fights some Saturday night. Peace.
Yeah, man. Yeah, brother. I can't wait. I cannot wait, man. We're going to stop the broadcast. Obviously going to say before we say goodbye, you know where to find this podcast, iTunes, Spotify. If you have ears, headphones, and can listen, that's where you can find it. I will, at some point with some guests that I am not sure of quite yet, I'll be on this later this week, talk about the monstrosity that is, maybe not the right term, but the International Fight Week extravaganza we will see on Saturday. And until then, I am off. Thank you very much for listening.